Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday. It's May 7th. It is 2024. We have an 8-game MLB slate to talk about here on today's podcast, joined today by my good buddy Keith Eister. Eys819. Keith, what's happening, my friend?
Not too much. Just still waiting for some runs to be scored on this Monday night slate. Dodgers just getting going, and they're off to a hot start. So looks like you're going to need the chalky Dodgers tonight. But pitching was going well. Castillo did his thing. Cole Reagan's over strikeouts just continues to be free money. Simeon Woods Richardson put on a very nice display. I was talking about how his swinging strike rate was way down on Grinders Live today. He proved me wrong. He came out and struck out 8 Mariners, who, man, they have a real strikeout problem there in Seattle. But interesting slate Monday. A lot of the same stuff here for us on Tuesday. Smaller slate for a Tuesday. We're used to these like 10, 12 gamers on Tuesday. So eight games is a nice amount.
Yeah, I was telling Keith pre-show that I took Monday off. I had a lot of yard work to do and stuff, and I didn't have any like premium content, so like there was no like need for me to like get back on like the research streets after like the podcast last night. So I bet Cole Reagan strikeout prop, which hit. We just talked about that. I bet Ohtani did a home run. He hit a home run. He was like one of my funsies. I had Massey over 1.5 total bases. He hit a home run. And I have Oakland over 3.5, and then Adolis Garcia over a 1.5 total bases. And then I was telling Keith, like, Hard Rock had Roker at over a half a total base for minus 130. So I bet that as well. So I just bet some stuff. Didn't really like get back into like making some lineups and stuff for DFS today, but I am definitely going to be in the streets here on this Tuesday. Like Keith said, we got a smaller slate. We're so used to like getting on here and having 12 to 14 games to talk about on Tuesday, but this is a very interesting 8-game slate. There is a lot of ways to potentially attack this slate, so can't wait to talk about that. What's up, YouTube? Hope you're having a fantastic Monday night. Yeezy, Richie, Zach, Podin, Derek, Gus. I think that's everybody. I probably missed some people. I'm sorry. Let's jump in. Let's have some fun. We get started here with New York and Houston. Houston at New York. 8 total. Kind of a pick'em game. Like the Yankees are a slight favorite in this one. Justin Verlander against Luis Gil, and Verlander is a dog here on the road, which is kind of interesting. I mean, it's a pick'em. It's like 105 to 118. So, any interest here in Justin Verlander?
Verlander as a dog is interesting because he's still a very good real life pitcher, but what's disappeared are the strikeouts. He's just not the same 30% strikeout rate guy that he used to be. And I feel like 9,000 is just a little bit too much. Don't get me wrong, there's strikeouts in this Yankees lineup, but tough ballpark to pitch in. Lots of power in that Yankees lineup. So Verlander's just not a guy I target in DFS very much these days.
Yeah, like Verlander has never been like a 97 mile an hour like fastball velocity guy. But he threw in the 94 to 96 range when he needed to, right? Like he would average 95 most nights, but he just again, like his velocity is at like 93.7, and I think that potentially has a little bit to do with like rust. And I do think that we're eventually going to see Verlander's strikeouts come back a little bit. I don't know if he has the stuff to necessarily attack the Yankees yet. And like the walks are a little bit concerning. 7 walks over his last 2 starts. So struggling a little bit with command. I didn't watch the Cleveland game, but I did watch the Chicago Cubs game. And like he was really struggling with command. Over 95 pitches in back-to-back starts is a great sign for Verlander. He could potentially do okay here. I don't know if I get to Verlander today. I wouldn't necessarily talk you off of him. The caution to the wind is exactly what Keith just said, is like the strikeouts haven't been there. And like, honestly, the Yankees haven't been striking out as much this year as they have in years past. Like last year, it would be like a boom bust spot against the Yankees. And you'd be like, all right, well, you know, maybe I'll take some shots because they do strike out. But like the Yankees this season, they're 20.7 against right-handed pitching. They have one of the highest walk rates in baseball against right-handed pitching behind the Dodgers. So they're walking more. They're not striking out more. They're running up pitch counts. I probably don't get to a lot of Verlander. If they entice us at like 8K, I think $1,000 would get you an extra 1 or 2 bats, and I would probably have more interest. Gil on the other side of this game, the Astros have kind of been off to a slow start. I think that's the nicest way to put it. Like, because we just come to expect like the Astros to be like a top 5 offense, top 3 offense. Typically they're still a top 10 offense, but it's like okay. They're not like crushing the ball. They're not hitting a ton of home runs. Their ISO's way down. I eventually think they're going to get it going. I don't think I want to play Gil today. Do you have any interest in him in this spot?
No, Houston is been fine, but they still don't strike out. They have the lowest strikeout rate in baseball. I think that Gil is legitimately a good strikeout pitcher. He's going to get his strikeouts. He's over 30% on the season. It's not the spot here against Houston. They're a tough team to pick on from a DFS standpoint because of that low strikeout rate. And then of course you got the big lefties on the other side as well. So I think I'm out on Gil as well.
Yeah, I do. I like his potential in certain spots, and like we know he can do it in tough matchups. He just had a phenomenal outing against Baltimore last time out. Like we know he can do it in these types of matchups. So if you're running like 150 and you want to get a little different, I don't hate the idea of playing him. Any interest in the Houston bats here?
I mean, Gil's been really good, to be honest. Like his walks have come way down. Like that's always still in the back of your mind, though. Is he like this is a guy that struggled with walks all the way up through the minors? So looks like he's finally putting it together. He's always had a huge arm, but maybe that control escapes him. They're in Yankee Stadium here, so they could get a couple of home runs as well. So I don't mind a couple of full stacks. It's certainly not one of my main targets on the slate, but I mean, a stack against Gil is never a terrible idea.
Bueller is a wash trash can now. That one was solid. That one made me laugh. I'm probably glad that I didn't play DFS. I would have played a lot of Walker Bueller today, so that's good that I didn't play. I did like Castillo and Reagan's a lot on the podcast yesterday. I did not like Woods Richardson though. Hey, Seattle, man. Ugh, we'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah.
Yankees bats?
No, I said Verlander's still a really good real life pitcher. I truly believe that. You can chase home runs off him if you want. He's had reverse splits here. He's getting more strikeouts against lefties over the last couple of years. So I don't think handedness really matters all that much. Judge is probably the top target here, but you have to pay for him. Do you really want to one off a 6K in Judge? Probably not. I'm not stacking against Verlander. You mentioned the walks have been a little bit of an issue, but he's been an elite control guy throughout his career. I think once he knocks that rust off, the control will be just fine. So no Yankee stacks for me.
Yeah, we typically love bats in Yankee Stadium, but it's just such a tough spot to get to in general. Like the Yankees bullpen's been like one of the best bullpens in baseball this year. They have been just outstanding. Like I think like they lead a lot of statistics outside of like strikeouts, but like whip, ERA, xERA, all that stuff. Like they are just at the top of the board. So it's hard to get to Houston. It's hard to get to the Yankees because I mean Verlander is still a good pitcher, and like the Yankees aren't cheap enough. Like there's no like real cheap bat here for the Yankees where it's like, hey, I'm excited to play him. But I don't see myself getting to a lot of bats in this game unless like you have weird like if you're in like a range where you have like 6,300 left over and you want to play Soto, Judge, Tucker, Alvarez, Altuve, like okay,
Sure.
but I don't see like many lineups getting to that point, right? Like it's tough to see like a lot of lineups getting to that point. All right, Boston at Atlanta. Gotta text Will and get a little action on this game. 9 total in this one. How many runs do you think Will gives me here? Does he give me a run and a half? I think he'd give me a run. I think I could talk him into giving me a run and a half. All right.
I think you're getting the better end of that if you do get that out of him. But
yeah, well, it's a fan bet. It'd be for like a little jelly bean action.
Yeah.
9 total in this game. Atlanta 172 favorite. Cutter Crawford against Renato Lopez. Any interest here in Cutter Crawford?
I do. 8,500 is a little bit of a tough ask against a Atlanta offense that's theoretically good, but they've been struggling a little bit here over the past couple of weeks. Cutter Crawford looks to be taking a bit of a step forward as well. He's got that strikeout rate up over 24%, above league average. He's working deeper into games. He's been at least 6 innings in each of his last 3, 100 pitches in one of those starts, 92 in another. So, like, the leash looks really good. The strikeouts are up. It's not an easy matchup by any means. And he's certainly not a cash game option or anything like that. But in tournaments, yeah, I think there's some upside here.
I'm kind of with you. And like I think obviously you could stack the Atlanta side anytime you want to because they're an elite offense and they're going to eventually get going. Maybe they just needed to get back home or something. But yeah, his pitching run value this season is like one of the best in baseball. And his fastball run value is one of the best in baseball this year. And he is like top 3% in majors with a 26% hard hit rate this year. So he's done a great job limiting power. His strikeouts are right in line with what we saw kind of in 2022 and 2023, 24-ish percent, 24.5%. But his xERA is phenomenal. His X slugging, his X wOBA, all that stuff looks great. So we've said it so much this year, but whatever the Red Sox kind of figured out in spring training with their pitching rotation, it's working. Like all of their pitchers have taken the next step this year. So kudos to the Red Sox, like pitching coach and what they're doing down there, up there in Boston. So
they stole him from the Cubs. Craig Breslow is his name. They stole him from the Cubs. And I heard an interview when the Red Sox and Cubs were playing each other. They were throwing too many fastballs last year, is what they identified. They're throwing a lot more breaking ball stuff this year. So I don't know if that's the major change in what's taken over. I just happened to hear that nugget on a broadcast, but super interesting stuff. That's the part of the game that I just love analyzing.
Yeah, Cutter Crawford's fastball is down 10% this year. He's thrown a lot more cutters, sweepers, and split fingers. So, that makes sense. And like your fastball is effective, especially when you throw a lot of first pitch strikes and you can kind of pinpoint where you want to throw it. But if you're relying on the fastball too much, like we look at the same data that teams look at, they have a lot more people looking at it than we have as well. So like, you look at it and you're like, we see this. Teams that are hitting against him are going to scout him. I mean, that's what you spend your morning doing when you're facing a major league pitcher. You wake up and you scout the pitcher you're facing. So if you're seeing a lot of first pitch fastballs or a lot of fastballs in general. So I don't mind Cutter Crawford. I think he's okay. I like Renato Lopez a lot. Like I'm on team Renato Lopez. Boston's strikeouts and power down big time this season. Like they are just struggling, and they're eventually going to get it going, I feel like, but they're striking out almost 25%. Their WRC plus is right around almost below, a little bit above league average. But the strikeouts are kind of what you're chasing here with Renato Lopez. And again, this is a guy that it just seems like he's gotten it figured out, and he's pitching really well to start the year. And he's coming off of like a weird start where he got tagged a little bit by Seattle, but I think I'm going right back to the well on him in this spot.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm still having trouble digesting the price tag and wanting to pay this amount for Ronaldo Lopez, but you look at all the numbers and it's justified, especially this matchup against Boston. Like you said, they're striking out a bunch. There's not a ton of power threats in the lineup. 25.8% strikeout rate on the season, 4th highest in baseball. So, yeah, I mean, 9,700 is a fair price for Lopez. I'm in.
It's weird, right? Like,
it's really weird.
Last thing you said, like, hey, it's a fair price tag for Renato Lopez. Like, this is a guy
a couple 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, exactly. With the White Sox, we couldn't wait to play lefties against him.
Oh, we loved it. But yeah, I mean, he figured out some stuff in the bullpen last year, and like again, like his slider has just been phenomenal this year. And his whiff rate on the slider is like 45%, and his curveball is like 46%, his changeup's like 42%. Like, this dude didn't throw any fastballs. He just generated a ton of swinging misses just in general. But yeah, I mean, the only thing that concerns me with Renato Lopez is like they haven't really let him go deep into games. Like some pitchers, if you're at 88 pitches in the 5th inning, they might let you come back out. But I still think like the upside for him to throw 95 plus pitches is there. Any interest in the Boston bats here?
No, I don't think that I do. Like we're talking about how the steps or the strides that Lopez has made. If we're buying into that, I think it's a pretty tough spot for Boston. They're also not one of the better offenses in the game. Too many strikeouts in this lineup. I think I'm out on Boston.
Yeah. If you attack Renato Lopez, I think it has to be lefties. So, like, if you're going to play anybody here, I think it's Devers. Maybe Abreu and Duran. Like, Abreu, he started the season kind of slow, but he definitely has gotten it going here over the last couple of weeks a lot more. So, I don't mind like Abreu, Duran, and Devers. I don't have FanDuel pulled up in front of me, but like Devers has been extremely cheap on FanDuel for like a week. If he's still in the like 3K range, 3,100 range, I don't hate that. And then on the Atlanta side, like on teams that you're not playing Cutter Crawford, I think you could take some shots, but just remember, like one of the things that I pointed out with Cutter Crawford when we were breaking him down is like he's one of the best pitchers in baseball limiting hard contact this year. So it's really tough to like pay these prices. And I mean, his cutter and sweeper are generating so much soft contact that it's really hard. I think he's only allowed one home run on the year. Yeah, one home run on the year this year for Cutter Crawford. So if you believe in like Atlanta is struggling and you don't want to pay these prices, I completely understand that. Or if you're on the flip side of like, hey, Atlanta is going to eventually get it going and this might be the spot, then I don't mind paying the prices for them. I get that too.
Yeah, a little bit of both for me. I do think that Atlanta is obviously going to get it going again. I just don't think it's going to be in this spot against Cutter Crawford. I'm buying some of the changes that he's made this year. I think he's a really good pitcher. And I'm just going to bet that Atlanta can't pay off these prices. Like we're not getting any type of a discount here. They're still priced way up, but 6 guys over 5K. It's tough to fit them in. I think there's plenty of pitching to pay for, and I think there's offenses in better spots on the slate.
San Diego at Chicago Cubs, 9 total in this game. Cubbies a 138 favorite. Randy Vasquez against Shada. You got to be excited, right? Like this guy, he looks like super legit. Anyway, we'll talk about him in a second. But let's start here on the other side with Randy Vasquez. Good start his first time out against Toronto. I'd say a good start. And then it was okay. And just absolutely got shelled in Coors last time out and got called back up here. Any interest in this one?
He's cheap. That's about the best argument I can make for him. I will note there was wind blowing in at Wrigley on Monday night. If we get some wind blowing in, and for some reason I need a pitcher this cheap, I don't hate the idea. The Cubs offense
blowing
is a little bit
out at
10
to 15 miles an hour.
Full
right center is what it looks like.
Yeah, I'm out on that then.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you. I meant to look before the podcast because 9 total night before. You're like, all right, maybe there's a little wind. But then you're like, Shada is good enough to like definitely represent like an 8 total. So maybe there is a little bit of wind. So I just looked and it's like 10 to 15 miles an hour right center.
Yeah, I have no interest in Vasquez if he's dealing with that.
It just hasn't shown like the strikeout stuff. And like, I think that's the one thing, like when you're attacking the Cubbies, like you got to be able to attack like Michael Busch and Dansby Swanson and Ian Happ. Like Morel is crushing the baseball right now. Like you got to be able to get strikeouts off of those guys. So I'm out. I have a lot of interest in the Cubs bats, and we'll talk about that in a second. Any interest here in Shada against a low strikeouts San Diego team?
He's up at 10-3. That's a really expensive price tag here, facing a really high contact San Diego team. And then you tell me the wind's blowing out 10, 15 miles an hour, and he's an extreme fly ball guy. Like, I am super excited about what Imanaga has done. I think he's going to be able to win with his fastball at the top of the zone. His splitter is nasty. Like he has legitimate big leagues, like front of the rotation stuff, but he's going to give up fly balls. It's just the way that he pitches. Once the weather starts warming up, a few of those are going to start leaving the yard. With the wind blowing out here against a powerful San Diego team, I think that there's a little bit of risk here. Also, like you look at San Diego's season-long numbers and they're really low strikeout. They just added Eys, who is one of the lowest strikeout, highest contact bats in all of baseball. So those numbers are only going down from here. I have a really hard time seeing Imanaga pay off that 10K price tag here.
So, I mean, and I know we're going to get to him eventually, but like the direct comparison is Shada against Yamamoto.
Yeah.
And when we're looking at just pure upside, Yamamoto is way higher than Shada today when we're looking at the matchups. Like the lineup that they rolled out against Justin Steele on Monday only had one hitter with a strikeout rate over 20% this season against left-handed pitching. So, yeah, I do think Shada is going to win some battles, and I do think like there's a chance for him to get like 5 to 7 Ks here. I think Yamamoto could double-digit strikeout against the Marlins. So when I'm looking in this price range and I'm looking at like who do I want to be like the elite guy for me today, it's really clearly Yamamoto for me.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring that up because like if it's going to be like that for everybody, I feel like you have to play a little Shada because he is so talented and like, yeah, they don't strike out, but they don't have any power either. Like Tatis's power is way down this season. Machado's power is down. Their top guy, like power-wise, is Profar, and I don't know if we really want to trust that. So I think Shada is a great tournament play today. I think Yamamoto is the better play, but the better play doesn't always win. So I don't mind getting a little Shada today, just in general here. I hope all that made sense. Anyway. Yep. Padres bats. Any interest in the Padres bats here?
I think you're definitely chasing home runs. I talked about his fly ball profile, I think is what you're chasing, especially if you get a little wind blowing out. His control is elite. Like that's not somebody I like to stack against, but I think you could find some home runs here in the right conditions. And if you get 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, those are the right conditions. Machado's banged up and he was out of the lineup on Monday. I think I want to see him be healthy before I chase that. The price tag is really intriguing at 4,500, but I think I'd go to Tatis first before Machado. I don't mind Kim down at 4K. Bogarts is a guy who hits the ball on the ground a little bit too much, so I actually like him in this type of matchup against Imanaga. Not a guy that I play a ton of in DFS because of those ground ball troubles, but if Imanaga is going to work at the top of the zone and help Bogarts get some air under the ball, I don't mind that at all.
Cubs bullpen shaky too. You could definitely win this bullpen matchup. Like if they can, because they do a good job of like working pitch counts up quick. So if he only goes 6 here and you get 3 innings against the bullpen, like you could win in that matchup. Because they don't necessarily let him go really deep into games yet either, as far as like pitch count. Like I don't think he's thrown over 92 pitches yet this season. So there's that. For me, Machado, Profar, Kim, Bogarts, Tatis. I think at most I would 3-man stack San Diego, and it's more of the win and the ownership. I don't think San Diego is going to be very popular on the slate. Cubs bats on the other side. They're one of my favorite stacks on the slate today. You know, we're going to obviously talk about San Francisco against Dakota Hudson and Coors, and that's just a phenomenal spot and not a spot you want to miss on. But I think the Cubs have a lot of upside in this matchup against Vasquez. They're giving like Musgrove an extra day, is from what I was reading, why they called Vasquez back up. So, like, again, he's not somebody that's going to stick around in the majors yet. I feel like they're going to let him, even if he's getting hit a little bit, they're going to let him throw like 70-plus pitches in this spot to try to get a couple more innings out of him. I think the Cubs are in a phenomenal spot today.
Yeah, I'm with you, and they're too cheap. Their most expensive hitter is Chris Morel at 4,400. Like that's like Bush is up to 4,100, but that's with his power and the wind blowing out towards right is ideal for lefty power. Vasquez profiles to struggle with lefty power as well, so I'm not afraid to pay 4,100 for Michael Bush. Happ at 4,300 right there as well. Tauchman has been on an absolute tear. He's still only 3,900. Like the Cubs are just too cheap. Like if we do get wind blown out, they might get some steam here on this slate. Like Coors is obviously going to have ownership, but Wrigley Wind is always something that people are paying attention to as well. So even if they're a little bit popular, though, I'm still interested just because of the pricing here.
Yeah, does Morel have like 4 home runs in his last 5 games or something? Like he's he's just
Smoking
crushing
it.
the baseball right now. And like they were hitting the ball really well, and then they got kind of cold, and the prices came back down, and like now they're hitting the ball again. So I feel like this is definitely one of those opportunities we want to take advantage of the Cubs bats, just in general. So I love this spot for them. I hope like even like a guy like Patrick Wisdom cracks the lineup today. That'd be fantastic because I love his power upside as well. All right, Milwaukee at Kansas City, 8.5 total in this one. Kansas City is a 130 favorite. We got Colin Ray against Seth Lugo. Any interest here in Colin Ray?
If you can tell me who either one of these guys are, I will happily listen because they've both been really good, honestly. I don't know where the strikeouts for Seth Lugo have come from. We'll get to that in a minute. I think Kansas City's offense is pretty solid. I know they were pretty popular Monday night and they let everybody down. And Colin Ray has been solid. His price tag is only 6,700. I'm not buying it. Like this is a journeyman starting pitcher. Like he's had some success throughout his career, but he's been below average. The strikeouts have been below average. I don't expect him to keep it up. I will say 99 pitches in the last start is nice to see. He was at like upper 80s in every start before that, though. So I don't know that I'm fully buying a 100 pitch leash either. I don't know what to do with these two guys. Ray, especially. Like I think Kansas City's good enough where I'll leave him on the shelf. And if he continues to do his thing, then so be it.
It's really weird. You look at some of the advanced stats for him, and he's awful, right? Like Colin Ray, bottom 10.
How is he getting dudes out?
Like bottom 10% in xERA, bottom 10 in X batting average, bottom 10 in chase percentage, bottom 10 in whiff rate, bottom 13% in K rate. Like, yeah, he's just not giving up barrels. He's not getting hit hard. Like, part of baseball is like hitting the baseball hard, and like he's just not getting hit hard. He's getting really lucky. All the statistics say that he's getting really lucky. And I don't know if I necessarily want to believe the like luck factor of it because he throws pitches that generate soft contact. He throws sinkers, he throws cutters, he throws sweepers, he throws curveballs, and he throws splitters. Like those are the types of pitches that generate softer contact usually. You just look at some of the numbers and you're like, yeah, you really don't expect him to be good. His BABIP is like 240. Like I don't know. I'm not playing Colin Ray. I'm going to keep stacking against him. I think that the regression is going to happen. We saw it when the Yankees start, right? The Yankees start, he got hit really hard in that game. He's faced some good offenses. Like for him, the Mets in Citi Field, Seattle. I'm surprised Baltimore didn't crush him, to be honest. But then he faced St. Louis. He's faced a struggling Tampa team. He faced the Yankees and they smashed him. I'm going to be back on the well here on Kansas City, and I'm out on Colin Ray. Kudos to him. He's doing a good job of being the magic man out there, but I'm out on Colin Ray in this spot. Seth Lugo on the other side of this game. I love to attack Milwaukee with left-handed pitching. Seth Lugo is someone that I've played more than I'd like to admit this season, just in general. He's throwing innings, he's getting outs, he's striking people out, and he's doing his thing. Good for him, right? The advanced stats say like he shouldn't be striking all these guys out. Like his swinging strike rate's really low, his whiff rate's really low, his outside the zone strike rate is really low. Everything is really low. So, I mean, for me, Milwaukee is a really good baseball team. And I think they're a very underrated baseball team. They're third in WRC plus against right-handed pitching this season. They're 6th in ISO. They're a really good team. They're a sneaky, really good team. They're second behind the Dodgers and WOBA against right-handed pitching this season. So I don't think this is an easy matchup for Seth Lugo. I think this is a game that's going to have quite a bit of runs. And I think we're going to see both of these pitchers regress at some point. Good for Lugo. Bad spot. I'm out. I know you kind of were like trying to talk through it, but like nothing suggests that Seth Lugo should be pitching this good.
It's the spike in strikeouts over the last 2 starts. So, like, even his season-long strikeout rate is horrendous. He's at 16% on the season, and this is after the dude just racked up 17 strikeouts in his last 14 innings pitched. Like, so what? His strikeout rate was what, 13% coming into a start two starts ago, and the first one was Detroit. It's like, okay, he had an outlier outing against
He
Detroit.
threw his slider a lot more the last 2 starts. So Detroit, he threw his slider 26%. Toronto, he threw his slider 28%. He didn't, and we call it slider. Baseball Savant classifies it as a sweeper, and FanGraphs classifies it as a slider. So I'm going to say it's a sweeper because the StatCast data definitely is. I'm looking at that more. That's the only thing that I see different between those 2 starts. He threw a lot less curveballs and he threw a lot more sweepers, and like, it's kind of been something that we've talked about Toronto this year is like right-handed sliders, sweeper, curveballs. They've been struggling with them. So like, I don't know.
Yeah, that Toronto start's the one that has me hung up because they have a very low strikeout rate on the season. He's 7,200 and he's got a 100-pitch leash. Like, that's why I'm kind of hesitant. I'm totally with you that Milwaukee is a much better offense against righties than they are against lefties. Part of the reason I love Cole Reagans on Monday night. They're below average against lefties. They're elite against righties. It's been that way all season. But 7,200 for a guy who's going to throw 100 pitches, who has 17 strikeouts in his last 14 innings, it's jumping off the page a little bit, I must admit. I think it's a high risk spot as well. I certainly will have some Milwaukee stacks, even if I play some Lugo. But I'm on the fence on him right now, and that's just because of the price tag.
Fly ball guy against Milwaukee, man. Oh, this just screams stack spot. Like,
I'm totally with that too. Like, I think
yeah,
the Milwaukee
like
bats
even
are
if
in
you
a good
are
spot.
playing a little, if you are playing a little Seth Lugo, because like Keith said, he is 7,200. He's going to throw 100 pitches. He could throw, 6 or 7 innings here if he's pitching well. It's just, let's talk Milwaukee bats. Whether you're on Lugo or not, Lugo is a fly ball guy that gives up a lot of hard contact. They have a ton of power in this lineup. I love the Milwaukee stack in this spot. I think this is a great spot. And again, like, the thing we talk about with Milwaukee all the time is like their ability to steal bases too. Like, they can hit home runs and they can steal bases. I think this is a great spot for Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
I got to get my Brewers hat. Hold on.
Oh yeah. Is this a debut or have you busted it out before?
No, I wore it yesterday. It's green, so it like fits in my background, so I won't be wearing a ton. But when we like the Brewers, I got to wear the Brewers hat.
There you go.
Nashville Sounds. For anybody that missed the hot chickens could hit off a Lugo. See, Easy gets me. He understands me.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on the Milwaukee stack. Like, Lugo is not a guy that I'm afraid of. It's just really interesting to me what he's done for 2 consecutive starts here. So have my eye on him a little bit. He's cheap, but I still have a ton of interest in the Milwaukee bats.
Yeah, chalk or not, I hope everyone play the Dodgers today.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just saying, another home run. All right, let's talk Kansas City though, because I'm like kind of glad they burned people on Monday, but I really kind of wanted them to have a good game on Monday. They still won. I did a 3-team parlay bet too that I totally forgot about until just now. Forget who it was. Oh, it was Rays, Royals, Dodgers. So I'm good. I should be good on that one. I just took money line bets and got it like plus 240 because that's how I got my exposure to the slate, is a little bit of betting. Gosh, Bryce Wilson pitched so well against this team. It's like so scary, but like, I think you just got to go right back to the Royals here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know where that Bryce Wilson start came from.
It's like 2 or 3 times now, and I'm like, what is going on with Bryce Wilson? Like, it's weird.
I loved the Kansas City lefties. I love them again. Michael Massey did get it done. He's still really cheap, and I think he's a really talented hitter as well. 3,300 for him is too cheap. Pasquantino at 4,500. Perez is 5K. He has first base eligibility as well if you're not keen on spending that amount at your catcher position. Bobby Witt's obviously the top target here. I'm going to keep chasing Melendez's power at 3,500. I know he's been terrible this year, but I still believe there's some power in there. He's going to strike out, so it's going to be a frustrating ride. Hunter Renfroe is still under 3K. He's 2,600. Like, there's some big time power bats at cheap prices here against Colin Ray, who's not missing a ton of bats and is getting awfully lucky. Maybe he's generating soft contact with skill, but I'll take the bet that he's not able to continue that.
Yeah. Kansas City, and Derek's talking about this in chat, Melendez and Perez get pulled early sometimes. They will pinch run and play defense when they're up late in like the 8th inning. So I think overall it's a risk you're taking at 3,500 because you're chasing like the first 3 at bats. The home run upside is there, and like if he starts hitting home runs, they're not gonna take him out of a game that's close. So, yeah, I mean the hard hits are there. Colin Ray is another guy that kind of more of a fly ball guy against righties. So like Salvador Perez, Bobby Witt, Garcia, Hunter Renfroe, like they have a little bit more upside in this spot too. Good game. I think this is a game you definitely want to target. Seattle at Minnesota, 8 total in this game. Minnesota at 146 favorite. We got Emerson Hancock against Bailey Ober in this one. Any interest here in Hancock?
Sort of. He is really cheap, and if you're going down this low, I think he's a fine option. Minnesota has a strikeout issue as well, much like Seattle on the other side. He's been okay. He was really good in Coors. He was pretty good against an Arizona team that makes a ton of contact. I know they haven't quite been as good this year as they were last year. Struggled a little bit against Atlanta, but that's to be expected. He's 6,200. Pitch count is a bit of an issue, but you don't need 95 pitches when he's 6,200. So Minnesota definitely has the power to beat him up, but they also have the strikeout upside where I think he could pay off 6,200.
Yeah, I don't necessarily hate Hancock here. I mean, I just don't know if I'm going to necessarily need to get down to him. And
Probably
kind of
don't
the same
because of the guy on the other side.
Yep. Him. We'll talk about him for sure. But yeah, overall, Hancock doesn't like strike a lot of people out. So like I think his upside's like 15. And even on an 8-game slate, I don't know if that's enough today. I mean, he has had some 20-point games, but Minnesota's kind of sneaky good against right-handed pitching. The top half of this lineup can hit right-handed pitching. You know, Julian, Larnach, Kirilloff, Kepler. Kepler's finally starting to get it going. He started really, really slow. But I think he's hit safely in like, I think I was reading it was like 10 of 11 or something like that. Like Kepler, after a really slow start to the season, has gotten it going a little bit. So, and I will say Hancock's been a little bit reverse splitsy. His ISO is way smaller against lefties. He still gives them a ton of hard contact, and it's just barrels. He's not getting barreled against left-handed pitching or left-handed hitting. And he throws a lot of sinker like changeups to lefties. So I don't know if that's like keeping hitters off balance with his fastball too, but a lot of potential regression coming to some of his stuff when I was looking at his numbers like against lefties. So I think that this is a good spot for Minnesota bats. I probably won't play a lot of Hancock here. Going to the other side, Bailey Ober's actually been really solid this year. I know last time out, like he had one really bad inning against the White Sox, and it kind of just messed up his whole start. It's going to happen. These guys aren't going to win 25 games. We live in an era of baseball where like winning 25 games as a pitcher, not going to happen very often. Going to have bad starts, even against bad offenses. I think we attacked the strikeouts here. Like one of the reasons that it's really hard to get like excited about Colin Ray or Seth Lugo is because like we get Bailey Ober against a strikeout heavy Seattle team. Like they might hit a 1 or 2 home runs off him, but there's a good chance he strikes out like 6 to 8 hitters in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, price considered, Bailey Ober is my favorite pitcher on the slate. He's been really good. Like you said, one bad inning against the White Sox. I will admit his schedule has been incredibly easy over the last 4 starts. White Sox, Angels, and Tigers twice. But he's been uber efficient. Like he is getting through 7 innings in like 80 pitches. He tends to run out of gas in that like 5th inning going into the 6th, but I like him to work 6 innings in this spot, and the strikeout upside, like you mentioned, gets a huge bump against the highest strikeout team in baseball. I am totally in on Bailey Ober. I think he does a good job of navigating here. Again, he's going to be efficient. He doesn't walk guys. He's going to get through 5 innings pretty clean here, and then it's whether you can get 6 or 7 strikeouts in those 5 innings, or like, and then the sixth inning has been his issue here over the past couple of starts. So we'll see. Maybe they end up pulling him early. They leave him as like a 2 times through the order guy. So it's not without complete risk because the pitch counts have not been elevated by any means. But that's partly because of the efficiency also.
Yeah, I looked before the podcast. I'm so interested to see what his strikeout prop comes up. It hasn't popped up yet, but definitely one I think we're going to be looking at today is Bailey Ober's strikeout prop here.
Yeah.
Any interest in? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say if it's 5.5, that's an automatic bet for me. I've also been on his outs prop the last 2 or 3 starts. It's been sitting at 16.5. If it opens at 16.5 again, I'm going to hit that right away as well. Even 17.5, I think I'm in on Ober outs.
There you go. Any interest here in the Seattle bats?
I mean, you can chase some power against Ober, certainly. I don't have a ton of interest in stacking just because he does have that elite control. This offense is tough right now. I played a ton of Seattle on Monday night. It was not a fun experience. I was like, oh, these guys are so cheap. It's a great matchup against Woods Richardson. Did not work out. Bailey Ober is a lot better pitcher than Woods Richardson. So it's really tough to want to go back to him here. I'm not saying Ober's invincible by any means, but this Seattle offense is tough to get behind right now.
Yeah, like, hey, you can play Julio Rodriguez in any spot. He's 1 home run this year. Like,
he is down to 4,800 though.
Yeah, like the price is definitely the whole price on everybody is like intriguing. Yeah. Like Cal Riley would be my favorite. Like he's the guy that's hitting for power in this lineup that I feel like, at 3,900, this is the guy that should be over 4,500. He's just, hitting home runs. But yeah, I mean, I just can't do it, man. I like Minnesota here. I don't fully believe in Emerson Hancock's like numbers against lefties. Like I do see a lot of like negative regression in the advanced numbers to like his 53 ISO and 260 WOBA. Like you look at some of his X stats and it should be a lot higher. I think this is a really decent spot for Minnesota like mini stacks. Like if you're running like 5-man stacks and you are looking for like a 3-man, because they fill so many positions. They have so many position like spots open on how you want to attack like the top half of this lineup. So they always make for a really good secondary stack, and that's kind of how I'll be using Minnesota today.
Yeah, I certainly don't mind that. Their pricing is pretty fair also. And it's not like Hancock is going to blow everyone away. He's a below average strikeout pitcher. I don't think he's even necessarily a league average starting pitcher at this point. He's just really cheap is the only reason I had mild interest in Hancock, but I definitely prefer the Minnesota side of this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, he's young, right? Like he's a big prospect. Like he was the 1st-round draft pick out of college. Like, Seattle has the best starting rotation in baseball this year, and they believe in him. But let's be honest, there's a chance that like he doesn't finish the season in the starting rotation. Like they do have like Brian Wu, who is working in AAA right now, like getting ready to come back. Like he's the guy that I feel like will take over this number 5 spot in this rotation eventually. So yeah, it's coming. Brian Wu is coming back. He's coming back fast. I was like, I do a little bit. I still dabble in like season long baseball, and like he's somebody that I've targeted to pick up here recently for season long baseball stuff. For all you season long baseball players out there. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to add on my Minnesota takes. They are cheap enough where, again, I just like them as secondary stacks here. Up next, we got the Mets and the Cardinals. 8.5 total in this one. The St. Louis Cardinals. Miles Mikolas is a -126 favorite. Gotta love it. Jose Butto, Miles Mikolas. Any interest here in Butto?
Not at 8K, I don't think. He's had some success this season. I don't know. The St. Louis offense is hard to figure out. Like, there's a lot of talent in this lineup. They continue to underperform. This is going back to even last year now. So who knows if Goldschmidt has anything left. Arenado's been okay. They just got Dylan Carlson back off the IL. That's a nice little bump to this lineup. Ballpark downgrade for Buto as well, going to St. Louis from Citi Field. I don't think I'm playing him here at 8K.
Yeah, I have slight interest in him depending on the lineup because his strikeouts are much better against righties. But if they leave a lot of these righties in there, I think that's where you'd get interest in Budo because I do think like if they have a right-handed heavy lineup, like he could end up in that like 20, 25 point range. The 8K price tag is the really tough part because like do you sacrifice one of your bats and pay up to get like a Lopez, a Cutter Crawford type of play? You definitely go down to Ober on most builds. But is Buto like the pivot off of Ober or the play with Ober if you're not paying up for like one of Shadow or Yamamoto? So I think there's a lot of potential in this spot for Budo. It's going to be a lineup based thing for me. I want to see who's in, who's out of the lineup here today. I'm not playing Miles Mikolas. I know that. Like it's not ever going to happen for me. Like when he first got back from overseas and like he was like an elite control guy that had a lot of like movement on his pitches and stuff, sure. But I think this is just one of those spots where I'm going to pass on Mikolas like I do every start. And I know like one of his best outings this year was against the Mets. That's fine. That was in Citi Field. This is different.
Yeah, I'm out on Mikolas as well. He's in the Kyle Hendricks realm for me. Like it's basically never again at this point. They just don't have any skills any longer. Like
you picked the perfect comparison too. You're like Kyle Hendricks. Those guys are like brothers.
Just washed. Yep. No upside whatsoever. Gonna get hit really hard.
What a great comparison. That one made my day. Let's talk Mets bats. Talked about Nimmo, Stewart, and some of these guys yesterday. Kind of the guys I'd go back to the well here on Mikolas. I mean, he's giving up power to lefties and righties. I don't know if I full stack the Mets just because it's hard to stomach full stacking the Mets when you have all these good stacks on the slate. But they're another team that I definitely think I'll get some secondary exposure to.
Yeah, I mean, like he still has some skills to generate soft contact, but there's going to be balls put in play all over the place here. The Mets are not the best offense in the world, but I do like the ballpark upgrade here. Nimmo at 4,500. He homered on Monday night. I don't hate that price tag. Alonso's really been struggling. Can always play him though. He just got the
game a day off.
Yeah. Got the day off. So, for him. Yep, maybe he gets the reset, comes back in double dongs or something like that. Certainly don't hate that. JD Martinez, still waiting for him to get going a little bit. Haven't seen any power there, but I think he's got a year or two left in him. DJ Stewart is cheap power that I never mind chasing. So yeah, I'm in on the Mets, more of a mini stack probably, but I certainly don't hate him.
Yeah, you know me and DJ Stewart. I always have that guy in my player pool, and like Lindor's been hitting the ball really well recently. He's finally getting out of his slump. So yeah, Alonso was like 1 for his last like 28 before getting the day off is what I thought I remember reading. So
it's been rough for sure.
Rough go for him. Any interest in the St. Louis bats here?
I mean, I'm going to keep playing them just because I think there's some talent here still. I mentioned Carlson coming back. He's a little bit better from the other side of the plate, but he's 2,400 still. Who was the guy that ended up leading off? Jose Fermin was 2,100 and let off on Monday night. If that's something they continue to try, I don't hate taking shots there. I don't know. I still don't think I'm full stacking just because this team has been so bad. Gorman is a big power bat that has just not been able to make enough contact for a couple years now. But 3,600 for somebody who has 2 home run upside, I'll never say no to that. I think Newt Bar is fine. Like they're pretty cheap too.
Yeah, I mean Contreras has been great too, but
he's not cheap.
He's not. But like we talked about it on Crunch Time last week. And it makes sense. Like we're saving so much money at like first base and third base nowadays that like paying up a catcher has definitely opened up more. But like you're just prioritizing shortstop so much this year because shortstop is just producing at such a high rate this year. It's insane.
No.
All right, San Francisco at Colorado, 10.5 total. San Francisco 172 favorite. We got Kyle Harrison against Dakota Hudson. Kyle Harrison might be my guy today. Like we've talked about a lot of cheap pitchers on this slate, and I've kind of been like iffy on all of them. And one of the reasons why is like Kyle Harrison might be my guy. When he's pitching well, they let him go over 90 pitches. The Rockies stink. They're so atrociously bad. I prefer left-handed pitching against them because like McMahon and Blackman and like these guys that like can actually hit in this lineup are left-handed, but I don't know, man. I believe in the talent for Harrison anyway already. Like I'm interested to hear your thoughts because I'm really interested in him being like my cheap pitcher today.
Not a take I was expecting from you. So I am extremely intrigued now because I'm a believer in his talent as well. It just hasn't quite showed up yet. He's been better this season. He's got the strikeout rate up to 23.9%, which is right around where it was sitting. The walks are better. Like that was his biggest issue coming up through the minors was the control, right? But that's not been an issue for him in the majors. Yeah, I mean, in Coors, like there's such a stigma around Coors that I didn't even really consider him. But now that you're mentioning it, you're going to make me take a deeper look here. I'm certainly not afraid of Colorado, even in Coors. It's not as big of an advantage as it used to be now that they have humidors and everything. And I think Kyle Harrison has the stuff to get it done. The one thing that I will say is I'm concerned about the breaking ball. He does have a really good changeup as well. So decent velocity and a solid changeup. Maybe he's able to rack up some strikeouts here. He doesn't need that many. He's 6,400. So I'm intrigued. He was not originally on my radar, but I will do some deeper digging today.
Got to remember it too. Like he is. I know a lot of people talk about like Jackson Holiday and Wyatt Langford and everything, but like this dude's a huge prospect. Like he is one of the best prospects in baseball. He's the number one prospect in the Giants organization. Like this dude's a big prospect. Like this guy has a lot of ceiling. And like we're waiting for a little bit to show up, but like he's still young. He's like 22 years old. But big prospect. Like big prospect. Like Baseball Savant has him as the number one prospect for the Giants, and I definitely agree with that. But like you said, he throws enough fastballs and changeups that I'm not too concerned about like the curve, slurve, whatever they want to call it. And slider. But overall, yeah, I mean, I have interest in him. Like his put away pitch is a slider and slurve. Not going to be as effective at altitude, but again, like who in this lineup are you necessarily like worried about? Like McMahon's you're a little bit worried about Tovar, and maybe like a Brandon Rogers, but you're not necessarily like, oh, this team is. I'm worried about the Rockies. I mean, they play half of their games in Coors, and they're still 25th in WRC plus against lefties. Like they're not good. So. I think I'd rather take the shot on him over like Colin Ray or Seth Lugo, because I believe in the talent so much more than those two guys. Like, just I think he's a much better pitcher than those two guys. So, yeah, I mean, okay, we are gonna get where it's gonna be. Coors is gonna be scoring a ton of runs all the time, but the other thing that we have to remember is it's still like in the 50s in Colorado. Like it's 58 at game time in this game. Like it's not cold, but it's not like 80 degrees in Coors and the ball's going to be flying. Like it's 80 degrees in St. Louis and the ball's going to be flying. But yeah, just saying. I think that is definitely where I'm at when it comes to Harrison on the slate. I know for a fact though I won't play Dakota Hudson.
Yeah, no chance we're doing that. No thanks.
If you were ever going to play him, it would have been in his last start in Miami against the Marlins, and he's still struggled. He's
just not ever going to strike anybody out. He's trying to generate ground balls. He's literally throwing sinkers up there and saying, "Here, hit this into the ground."
Yeah, I mean, the Rockies called me and asked me if I wanted to pitch in Miami, and I couldn't make it work with my schedule. So, all right, let's talk about some bats of this game. We should mention that Soler did not play on Monday. They had the day game in Philadelphia on Monday and have to travel to Coors after that. But I mean, that's nothing new for Major League Baseball. So Soler was out of the lineup Monday. He might be out of the lineup. He's like your ceiling guy, but he's also the most expensive hitter in this lineup. I mean, I like Jung Ho Lee, Conforto, Chapman, and then like some value with like Yaz and whoever catches here. It's a really good spot. Dakota Hudson doesn't throw the ball by anybody. It's the first game at altitude, and we talk about this all the time. Is like, it definitely does different. Like it's a different perspective on like movement of pitches and stuff. But it's hard not to have interest in the Giants in this spot against Dakota Hudson.
Yeah, I mean, we say this every year that the Giants come to Coors. It's like the biggest ballpark upgrade that there is in baseball. They're going from an extreme pitcher's park in San Francisco to the best hitter's park in baseball in Colorado. So then you're matching them up with a pitcher who is absolutely not going to strike anybody out. The strikeout prop will probably be 3.5 with heavy juice on the under. You might even see some 2.5s out there. Like there's going to be balls in play all over the place in a massive park at altitude. Like you just have to take some shots on the Giants here. Stack them up any way you want to.
Yeah, I was reading chat. Like Bueller was projected around like 75 pitches. Like I don't think anybody expected Bueller to throw more than like 75, 80 pitches. Like so it didn't it does like especially as much he struggled in the beginning of this game. I didn't expect Bueller to come back out in the fifth and he didn't. So any interest in the Rockies bats in this one?
I mean, it's Coors Field. I think you can always play them anytime they're at home. It's not like a comfortable thing. They're never going to be one of my highest owned offenses, I don't think, just because there's such a lack of talent. Your points about them being worse against lefties is also another mark against them here. Tovar is probably my favorite hitter. He's at a loaded shortstop position, though, like you were just talking about. It's like shortstops are where we want to spend our money. I think Tovar does have upside just because of the Coors environment. Rogers is cheap. Bill's second base. It's just there's not a ton of names to like as you scroll through the lineup here. And then their best hitters are left-handed to add on top of that with McMahon. Blackman's been okay this year. But do I really want to play those guys lefty? I'll have some Colorado, but it's not going to be one of my top 3 or even 5 owned stacks, I don't think.
Do we believe in this like Jacob Stallings hitting the ball? It's so weird to like think that Jacob Stallings is hitting the ball, but he is. Like he's hitting 350 on the season, and like he had a really hot month of April. 3,800 for a catcher is like kind of in that like price range where I think it's okay. Sean Bouchard, everything like I've read about him is like he has some upside. Montero has some upside. Like you get some cheap righties here against Harrison, which I don't hate, but again, like this is like one of the reasons that I liked Kyle Harrison today is like we're struggling to find bats in a 10.5 total on an offense that's in one of the best hitting ballparks in baseball, and it's just like they're not great. We finish it out. Miami at LA taking on the Dodgers, 8.5 total. The Dodgers a minus 295 favorite in this one. Here we go. Any interest here in Cabrera against the Dodgers?
No. I mean, he just faced the Colorado team we talked about and couldn't go over 15 DK points. Don't think he's going to do that here against the Dodgers.
Yeah, I took his strikeout prop, and his strikeout prop absolutely smashed last time out. But his command is just really bad right now. And like I think Cabrera is good enough where he'll get it down a little bit, but like this is a guy that struggled with walks last year, and he struggled with walks on the road even more. We talked about it so much. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think that this is a spot, even at 8,700, even. Had they intrigued us at like 6,500 with Cabrera? Maybe, but they didn't intrigue us at all. Just pay up for some of these other guys in this range. Other side of this game, I mean, we kind of talked about it earlier when we were talking about the Cubs, but Yamamoto clearly the top option on the slate. Like, this isn't a think twice about it spot. Like, He has a 30.5% K rate. He's facing one of the worst offenses in baseball. They're not great. They just got rid of one of their low strikeout guys and traded him away. Like, it's just the only reason you're necessarily thinking about being underweight on him is just pure game theory. But this is a fantastic spot.
Yeah, he's going to project as the best pitcher on the slate, as he should. Strikeout rate is elite. Walk rate's been really solid. And Miami's probably the worst offense in baseball without Eys now. Where do they go from here? Like, do they trade Jazz Chisholm at this point? Like, why not? Like, it's going to be
contract.
I think he's still in arbitration. He's got 1 or 2 years left, maybe. I don't recall him signing a long-term deal. Possibly he did, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be years before they're good. I mean, they're starting rotation. I guess I don't know. I don't know where they find the offense. Once their starting rotation gets healthy, there's a chance they could possibly compete in a year or two. But
there's no chance they're trading Jazz, by the way. He's in arbitration. Yeah, he's in arbitration until 2027. He's not an unrestricted free agent until 2027. Like, there's no chance they're trading him.
Yeah, he's going to start getting expensive, though. If they don't think they can compete in the next 3 years, that's what.
Yeah, but he was only $2.6 million this year. Like,
yeah,
even if you pay him a little, like you've gotten such a discount on him anyway. But have a hard time.
I didn't realize he had 3 years left. I thought he was one or 2 years left of free agency.
Yeah, I think for sure. But like, I feel like if anything, if you're not going to trade him, you probably try to extend him this year. No, like he's a guy you kind of want to stick around. He's one of the guys that's going to keep fans coming back. But I don't hate the move for what it's worth for Eys, but like his contract and everything, like I didn't hate that move for them because like they basically in the press release said that like, hey, we're not going to make the playoffs this year. We're paying this guy $6 million and, he becomes an unrestricted free agent in like a year or something like that. But like, they're like, hey, we're paying this guy way too much money. Was it like 10 million or 6 million or something? It was a lot.
I think, yeah, he's up around 10, 11 million, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, what was funny though is like the trade, like they're paying his contract in the trade is what I read. So, anyway, we got sidetracked a little bit, but Yamamoto, fantastic spot. Any interest in the Marlins bats? Nope. All right, moving on. See, I just made all that time back up. Let's talk Dodgers bats. With the struggles that we have seen so far, command-wise from Cabrera, do we just play the Dodgers again? I mean, I know like any slate we could play the Dodgers, but I mean, do we just play them again? Like Munoz, like even in his struggles tonight, they have let him go. Like he's starting. He has 2 outs right now in the bottom of the 5th, and he's at 97 pitches. But they're like, hey, you got hit a little bit, but we're gonna let you pitch because they don't really want to eat the bullpen. The first game of the series, they don't want to like go to the bullpen in the 3rd inning here, and they're not probably going to beat the Dodgers anyway. But it's hard not to love the Dodgers in this spot.
Yeah, I see no reason not to go right back to them. Cabrera is a better pitcher than Munoz, but he's had his control struggles. Even when he had a really good season last year, he struggled with command a little bit. So yeah, I see no reason not to go right back to them. Like they're expensive, you got to pay for it. You're probably not fitting up like the top hitters on the Dodgers with Yamamoto, but I think there's some cheap players that we talked about. You're going to have a cheap bat or two to stick around a Dodger stack as well. Like there's going to be ways to make it work, and they have as much upside as anyone on the slate.
He was really splitsy last year, wasn't he? Like home road.
I don't know that off the top of my head.
I'm looking it up really quick.
I think a lot of the Marlins pitchers were actually, which I mean,
yeah, I just thought he was really splitsy. My Fangraphs is taking forever. Sorry. Yeah, so I mean, not as much as I originally had thought last year, but definitely splitsy enough where it's to note. Like his WOBA at home was 278. It was 345 on the road. He allowed 8 of his 11 home runs on the road. He only allowed 13 earned runs at home and 34 on the road. His ERA at home was 2.42. It was 5.96 on the road. So he had a lot. Like he really struggled on the road, and that makes sense. But it shouldn't be that bad. Like xFIP 1.5 higher, FIP 1.5 higher. BABIP was really close. Like, yeah, strikeouts went way down, home runs went way up. So Cabrera definitely struggled a lot more on the road last year, which makes sense when you're pitching in Miami. But I like the Dodgers. I like the Dodgers regardless of his home run splits last year. I think it's a good spot. All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we'll get out of here. Under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts. Who do you got today?
I'm going Bailey over. Awesome strikeout matchup for him against Seattle.
Shocked. I would expect that from you. I'm going to go Kyle Harrison to get some strikeouts today. Over 8K to score under 15. Who's your bust today?
Another pretty easy layup here. Edward Cabrera for me.
Going first has its advantages sometimes. I'm going to go Gil. I mean, I don't necessarily hate Gil. I just think that, like, in Yankee Stadium against the Astros, low strikeout Astros, I think this is a tough spot for him. Over 4K to hit a home run. Who's going yard?
I'm going to take my guy Chris Morel to stay hot.
All right. He is doing his thing.
So
right?
good. Like when he first came up and kind of exploded, like you love the tools, but it was a long path for him to get to the ceiling that he's shown this year. Like he's a well-rounded player at this point, and it's impressive. Fun to watch.
I'm going to go Salvador Perez to hit a home run today. Again, when we were breaking down that game, we were talking about Colin Ray. Some of his like fly ball splits and stuff against righties definitely popping. Salvador Perez will punish you if you're going to give him a fly ball guy. So give me Mr. Perez to go yard today. And you know I hate paying up a catcher. But like you could pay up for Perez at catcher and then like go down and find a cheap first baseman because there's so many potential cheap first basemen on every slate.
Yep.
Under 4K to get 2 hits. Who do you like today?
I'm sticking with those Royals. I'm going Michael Massey. Really like what he's been doing.
I knew you were going to take my guy when we were talking about the game.
I think he's a talented guy. He's had his struggles since he came up, but he's starting to put it together, I think.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Hold on, I'm looking now. He was the guy that I wrote down, so I love your answer there.
Cubs are cheap. That's the other.
Yeah, Crow Armstrong. Let's go to Crow Armstrong. Talented prospect, and we like this matchup a lot here for the Cubs against Vasquez. So give me Crow Armstrong. I assume he'll be back in the lineup today. Maybe not, but I assume that they will get him in the lineup. And if he's not in the lineup, then Tauchman would probably be in the lineup. So just give me Tauchman. So Crow Armstrong first.
They'll both be in there. Tauchman and
they're both going to get 2 hits.
Beat that,
Keith.
There you go.
Stack to score 6 or more runs. Who do you got today?
I will beat that by saying the Cubs are going to score 6 or more runs.
I wrote that down too. Congratulations. There you go.
I think we're on the same page as ways to get off of Coors and Dodgers. I think I know where you're going here.
Love the Cubs. For what it's worth. Absolutely love the Cubs. I'm going to go Royals. I really like Kansas City. I know they struggled on Monday, but I'm going right back to the well. The advanced numbers for Colin Ray just scream regression, man. I believe in the advanced numbers. It's one of the things that I love to look at. So I'm going to go with the Royals today to score 6 or more runs. Any player props or pick 'em plays that you like here today?
Let me do a quick refresh while I'm checking here real quick. Yeezy in chat said Bellinger might be coming back this week. That it is correct. I don't know if it'll be today. Suzuki is also really close. Like both of them should be back this week. I don't know that it'll be for Tuesday for sure though. Let me see here. I'm trying to see if that over outs prop would be my first.
Yeah, they're not even going to send Bellinger for a rehab assignment from what I was reading yesterday.
Yeah. No, there's not an over outs prop up there or a strikeout prop. Ooh, Carter Crawford's up at 4.5, but it's juiced to 150 on the over. I like him to go over 4.5. I don't know if I want to pay 150 on it though.
Yeah, I was struggling to find anything. I looked, and I will say FanDuel's the only place to have this, and I wrote it down. It's not on our slate, but Zach Gallen, you can get over 5.5 strikeouts against Cincinnati. I think it was like minus 135 when I wrote it down before the podcast. I don't know if it's changed or not, but I like over 5.5 strikeouts for Zach Gallen against the Reds on that early slate. So they've been They have a ton of talent, but they've been striking out at a huge clip against right-handed pitching this season. So any lines, money line, over-unders, anything jumping off the page to you here?
I was looking at Red Sox Braves under 9 runs. I think there's 2 really good starting pitchers in that matchup. Crawford's taken a step forward. The transition for Ronaldo Lopez has gone really well. I know having Atlanta as one side of that is really scary, but I think Lopez can certainly keep Boston down, and I believe what Crawford's doing this year. So I kind of like the under there.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I already bet this one. I took the over in the Milwaukee Kansas City game. It's at 8.5, and it's still up for me, so I'm assuming it's up for everybody else as well. Minus 110 over 8.5. Oh, it looks like it moved to minus 120 on the Hard Rock, but I still like minus 120 on the over on that game. I think that we're gonna see that's 2 really talented offenses. We talked about how the pitchers have some regression in the advanced numbers for them. That's 2 really talented offenses as well. So don't sleep on those. Like Milwaukee's 3rd in WRC plus. Kansas City, I think, is like 13th. So don't sleep on either one of those offenses. So I like the over in that game. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope, I think we covered it.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for Tuesday. I almost said Monday because I'm looking at Monday, but Tuesday, May 7th. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us. We'll be back tomorrow talking baseball. I think we got Tim on the late slate tomorrow, so we'll be back talking baseball tomorrow. Come hang out with us. Everyone, good luck. We'll see you then.